I wonder, Chaser, for you after, almost 30 years of being in the building, being in the room, how weird is it still to like watch a Blues game and to not walk down after the game to see the boys or to talk to the coaches? I'm just, for you and I know you've been doing this for a little while now, but how strange is it to sit and watch?
Yeah, really, really. The hardest part of it is, the camaraderie. Because when you leave the game, you don't miss the game. You miss the guys. You miss a team. You miss being on a team. And even, Curbs was my closest teammate when I left the game, but we had a good group with Panger and JK and Timmy and, Phil, a group that hung around with the broadcast team. And then you have the players, and you have a special bond with them, and they trust you, and there becomes this alliance with them where they feel like they can open up to you at times when the coach is, maybe there's a shitty relationship there, or there's something that happens. There's always a way where you can find, a way to kind of get to a guy and help him out. And I think that's what I enjoyed the most, was being a part of a group. Last year was so much fun, and being a part of that whole run, and watching the city and being just maybe captivated by the emotions of so many people. I thought that was awesome. But this year, obviously, yeah, it's odd because, they're in a bubble and we can't talk, face to face and have a conversation.
You think it's hard for the players? I think, Tuukka Rask, when he left the other day, whether it was right or wrong, was saying, boy, before he left, he was saying that these games are weird and there's no fans. You think it's is it hard, do you think, for the players to kind of tell themselves this is real, this is the playoffs?
Yeah, it's definitely tainted. And of course it is. I mean, you play the game because of the emotion and the energy that is created by the fans. I'm sure that Tuukka struggled with a lot of the things. I think he's going to struggle coming back, whether people want to hear it or not. I think the truth is there's going to be players that will question him leaving on his team. And so that's going to be something that'll be burn his saddle right or wrong for a while. But I think he's right. Like, I made a joke the other day. I said, now you know what it was like to play in Hartford. With the fact that when we were leaving, it was miserable because people were booing us in our own rink, and there was 5,000 loyal Hartford fans. And then you run into people in Hartford and go, why'd you call it Shawshank? And we were season ticket holders. They said, if everyone was a season ticket holder that told me that they were a season ticket holder that I've run into since I called it Shawshank, the team would never have left Hartford. But the truth is it's difficult playing in those types of settings, especially when, you draw off the emotion of the crowd. So I think it's tough for those guys, and I think it doesn't taint the effort that they're putting in, but it sure makes it different, and it isn't the same type of embracing the city and your fans that are behind you. The playoffs gives you that feeling of energy in every city you play in.
You think they found their game? We sort of threw that phrase around. We were waiting for them to kind of flip the switch or look like the team we had seen. Do you feel they have now?
Well, actually, I think that they had found their game. I thought they played really well in the first two games. Maybe not as well defensively in the first one, but in the second game, I felt like they played extremely well. And I thought that, it could have went the other way. The one thing that St. Louis relies on is their penalty kill. It has to be good. Got to get special teams going a little bit, but their penalty kill, because if their penalty kill is really good, they can play more aggressive. They bullied teams out of the playoffs last year. I mean, they literally run over teams and intimidated them and bullied them, and that's how they won. And I think that when the penalty killing's good, they can start to do that to the young group in Vancouver. Vancouver's got a very, very talented young group of players. That team is going to be good for a long time. Travis Green is maybe one of the most underrated coaches in the league. And I just think that group is going to be hard to beat and push out of this round, no matter what happens. So I don't think Vancouver's going away by any stretch of the imagination. But, St. Louis is missing some bodies that are key that I think are important down the stretch. And yet, again, experience is showing that if they can be physical, they're going to find a way to get it done.
Isn't it funny how it comes back to a Jake Allen after everything that's going on, the Binnington phenomenon, winning the cup, and Jake just kind of kept his head down, kept working, and then lo and behold, they need him for a couple of games here to stay alive, and answers the bell. And you just don't hear much from the guy, but I know he's making a lot of money. He's a pro athlete. I don't feel sorry for him, but I think people don't appreciate how hard that is, where he was the guy and then how quickly he wasn't, and yet he still has to be ready.
Well, I think it shows and it speaks volumes about his personality and about his character. Jake's a proud guy, and Jake certainly didn't want to be the guy that was, second guy in the playoffs, but he's also smart enough to realize that hard work and effort and focus is what's going to get you back in there. And I think, we were sitting around, and when they lost the other night, they said they're going to go to Jake, and a bunch of us watching the game, and we kind of talked about it a little bit and debated it, and sure enough, that's what they decided to do. And I said, don't worry about it. And I've seen some of his best games when he's played in Vancouver, against Vancouver. So I don't know if it's the jersey or what it is, but he's been really, really good in some of those games in Vancouver, especially. And I can tell you, at the end of a road trip we played a few of them where it led right up to Christmas, where guys could kind of mail it in a little bit. He came and played and saved them some points, and a couple times, in seasons. So I'm proud of Jake, and I wish the best for him. And they all know in that group there that it's taken every one of them to win last year, and that's what it's going to take again.
I get the sense Berube's a guy you would have liked to play for. Would he have, how many years do we have coaches where, well, they were a little too tough on the guys. Well, they're a little too easy. Well, they're just not the right fit. All of a sudden, this guy comes in who doesn't take shit from anybody, and all of a sudden, it just works. He just seemed, not just that I could see the two of you kicking some ass at the bar, but I feel like you would have liked playing for this guy.
Would have loved it. I remember the first time I fought Chief, I was a young guy in Saskatoon, and he was playing for the Medicine Hat Tigers. He was a 20-year-old. And I came out and I kind of gave him a little shot with my stick, and he turned around. I said, we're going to go when the puck drops. And he said, okay. He said, are you sure you're ready? And I was like, what? Like, it just, he was fearless, and I wasn't sure I was ready, but I knew I had to. He was running around. I had to fight him. And the one thing about, there's a saying about, you get caught up in all of the things that are going on, analytics, and you get caught up in what the other team is doing and what's made this group successful. And sometimes the M in masses is silent. And I think in Craig Berube's case, he just went about doing it his own way and just said, I'm just going to use common sense. You want to play on the power play? Okay, well, score when I put you out there. You want to play more? Okay, work harder. Show me some signs of contribution. Show me that you care. And all of those things sound like common sense things, but he's lived by them. I mean, have you ever seen a situation handled better than when Pavelski had the hand pass and they just come in and he goes, it's behind us. We're not talking. Who cares? It's over. It's not changing. Get over it. So what? By the time San Jose left St. Louis in Game 6, they couldn't have played a Game 7. They could hardly get on the plane. They were beat up so bad. And they didn't deserve to go to 6 games. But Craig Berube kept everybody focused on what the task was at hand. And his speech in the Game 7, prior to the game, that's been so widely viewed, is exactly how he carries himself. This is the way that I believe we are the best team. I believe if we play hard, we will win. And I believe in you guys, and I'm going to put every one of you in a situation to succeed. But just make sure you're prepared when you get the opportunity. So who doesn't want to play for a guy like that? There's no nonsense. There's no Keenan BS. There's no, spitting and hollering and swearing and pretending to be tough. And because all you got to do is pop in a tape of Craig Berube, and you get a real feel about the way he played the game. And then you got to go back in the room and look in the mirror and say, well, would I do that and sacrifice that for my teammates? Because if I do, we got a chance. And that's what they do.
How did the Saskatoon fight go? And how many were there? How many times did you and Chief square up?
I can't remember how many times. I know we fought in Washington because there's a huge picture of him and I up in Enterprise of him and I squaring off. And I don't even know if people realize it's him, but he was with Washington. And I know we fought for sure twice when he was with, I believe, in Toronto. And, of course, we fought in junior. So I don't know. I know there's 4, but I don't know if we fought. I think just 4. That's enough.
Were they pretty even?
Well, yeah, I thought so. He's a big, strong guy. The first one in Saskatoon, I was doing a lot more hanging on than I was fighting, I think. And then as I got a little bit of man strength, I started to try to get inside on Chief. But, he's a legendary player for his toughness and his willingness. So if you could emulate a guy that you wanted to be like as far as his attitude and his, what's made him successful. I think you pick Chief because I mean, you think about playing 1,000 games as a tough guy. You know how hard that is, right? 1,000 games as a fighter and a tough guy. I mean, you got to make sure you don't miss many meals because you got a lot of work to do for a long time.
You mentioned the speech before Game 7. It is legendary. And you get the sense they weren't losing. Like, he knew it. He said it. They weren't losing. And it's really weird because you and I have been around the team and thought this is the year and this is the series. And then shit just always seemed to happen. I kind of thought that night they were fine, even after Game 6. How about for you going into Game 7? Were there any thoughts of, don't do this to me, the alumni, the city? Like, what were those emotions?
Yeah, you know what? I actually thought they were going to win, and I don't know if you know the story about me not going to the game. Like, I didn't go to the game because I thought well, we're not going to be with the players, and I really wanted to. If I would have known that, when I got invited to the game by Chappie and by management and the ownership, I was so honored. I mean, so many things that happened that I'm grateful for that year. But I look at it and went, I want to see how the city reacts. I actually thought we were going to win. I wanted to hear my partner do the game. So I listened to the game on the radio and didn't watch it. And I was standing on the bridge watching the city erupt when Curbs counted it down. And I can't believe I couldn't get my phone to load for my video because the text messages were coming so fast. And I can't believe I didn't get that because I was right at the overpass where I could see down the street by Busch Stadium, Ballpark Village. I could hear the commotion over Enterprise. And I'm looking literally, and it was eerie about it was there was no traffic. Like the only trucks going were big semi trucks. Like nobody was out on the road. There was no cars. It was just, big semi trucks going by every once in a while. It was like no one was on. And I'm listening to Curbs because I got the window down and I'm standing on the edge of the freeway looking out. And it was unbelievable. I got goosebumps right now telling you about it because it was and I can't freaking believe I don't have video of it because it was so cool. And, and then just to go to Obie Clark's and watch my friends and the people that I knew had supported for so long and just see how happy they were, like just no one had a bad day that day, man, or that week. And it was something so special. So I believed they were going to win. I was like, I went to the city to get ready to buckle in for a week because Hully and I didn't miss much. Did
anybody see you that night or run into you and say, "The hell are you doing? Turn on your TV," or anybody in your family say you're crazy?
Well, the only ones that knew that I was doing it on the radio was I had to make a trip into Nashville. So I was supposed to go there and back. And I got in my car and I said, I'm going to drive. And my wife said, what do you mean you're going to drive? You're going to fly to Boston from there? I said, I've decided I'm not going to go. I'm going to listen to Curbs. So I timed it so that I could come into the city when the game was ending. And sure enough, I mean, literally, I stopped and got gas and was listening. And I put my foot in it a little bit so I could cross the bridge. And my plan was to go downtown and see what was going on. And then when I don't know if you know what happened exactly, but there was people parked on every street downtown with their lights, like literally bumper to bumper to bumper stopped. Like it wasn't like traffic was moving. It was virtually stopped down there, bumper to bumper to bumper. And I mean, it was the noise and the racket. You could feel the bridge, the overpass is shaking. So my wife said, I said, I want to listen to Curbs do the game. And it was awesome. It was great. And the fact that, John Kelly did part of it, and it just was such a great story for the city and for everyone. And I mean, it's something I'll never forget. I mean, look at those 23 kids changed my life because even though I didn't get to win as a player, I got to be a part of something so cool with this great organization, but also they changed the perspective of the city about Blues hockey. And he can never take that away from him.
And it's changed over the years since you first arrived. The Blues, I mean, right now they quote unquote own the town. I know it's a baseball town, but the brand is just on fire. That's got to make an alumni who's lived in St. Louis all these years not not proud. You've always been proud to be a part of the Blues, but just it's got to be a little remarkable how far it's come in the brand, the hockey that's going on, the kids that are coming out of St. Louis. I mean, from day one when you stepped into St. Louis, it's changed a ton.
Yeah, Brett Hull saved hockey in St. Louis. We all know that. And it's grown from there. And I would tell you that I think until that team won, the most popular teams that ever played were the teams in the 90s. I mean, I don't think anybody will argue with that. I think there was just the way we played and the way we committed to the community. And I think that's just the fact. And I think Brett was the reason why there was so much attention around it. And they've taken it to the next level and they've won a cup. And I'm like, I just think it's so great that this group of guys get to come back to this city for the rest of their lives and have people put their arms around them and buy them a drink or buy them dinner and say thank you. I mean, we did some really neat stuff with the cup, and Chappie set up some stuff that we were able to do where we just grabbed the cup and we would show up and not, because it was, I mean, everyone in the city seemed to have touched it, and which was so awesome. But we did this thing for like 4 nights or something where I think I did 3 of them where you could just, we just take it to a place and show up. And it was a gas station. It might be the barber shop next. It might be a yoga studio. It might be whatever, but it was always something. And I remember going into Trattoria with Panger. They put the cup down. We went over in the corner and sat, and people were just like, it's like traveling with Elvis Presley. And I'm not talking about Panger either. I'm talking about the cup. And you go in, and this older gentleman just had tears running down his face. And Panger kind of gives me a kick. He goes, "Look at this." And so there's this older gentleman, and he just kept, he was weeping. And finally, I got up and I walked over and I said, "Hey, how you doing, sir?" I said, "I'm Kelly Chase." And he kind of looked, he was embarrassed. And he looked over his shoulder. He goes, "I know who you are, son." And I said, "That thing's pretty cool, isn't it?" He goes, "Whoa." I said, "You want to get a picture?" He goes, I can't stop crying." So I said, "Well, it does bring some emotion to you or whatever." And he goes, "Man," I said, "the last time I saw that thing," he said, "it was in 1960. I want to say he said 68. Jacques Lemaire, I was an usher at the locker room, Montreal Canadiens door, and Jacques Lemaire walked by me with that Stanley Cup. And I never thought I'd see it. And there it is, right there. And I can't stop crying." I think it's stuff like that that gets, put in a bow about the whole season that I think really means something special. And to me, little stories like that I'll never forget, and the fact that, they were doing something up in Canada with the cup in Saskatchewan. And I asked if I could take it to my hometown the day that it was arriving. They did whatever they had to do to announce the outdoor game the following winter. And they brought it to my hometown, and I got to take it, to the gravesite of my dad in my hometown. Just there was a whole bunch of those little stories that I think were really cool and that I'm grateful for. Like I said, those 23 guys have made a huge change in my life.
People think of Kelly Chase, they think of the Blues, connected to the city, a lot of charity, the locomotives, the kids' hockey. I think people that don't know you that well might be surprised. You and Jack Buck were really tight, weren't you? I mean, from event to event. I remember when I first moved back to town you guys were like a comedy duo. I mean, give me an idea how that friendship took off.
Charlie Spoonhour, he was the conduit there. He had asked me if I would go to this church at Christmas time or Thanksgiving. I can't remember the first time. And he said, Jack, is giving away, he's doing a big dinner for like 400 people, homeless shelter thing at a church. And would you come by? So I said, of course, always Thanksgiving, because he was messing with one of the girls that wanted to do an interview with your station. And she said, "Can I get a minute?" And he said, how he talked, like he would, "Have you had this? You know what I'm talking about, don't you?" And he said, she goes, "Did you, was it a big deal when you were growing up, having Thanksgiving and having the turkey?" And he goes, "Oh no, when I was a kid, we didn't have turkey. We had goose." He goes, "Couldn't afford turkey. One year we had flamingo. Have you ever had flamingo, honey?" And the girl's like, she doesn't know what to say. She's rattled. She thinks he's serious. She goes, "No, I've never had flamingo." He goes, "You know that leg they tuck up underneath them? Tenderest part of the bird." And I mean, it just made you laugh constantly, right? So, but you could see him saying that, right?
Yes.
So you got him and Charlie Spoonhour. You want to go first because they're funnier than you. They're you know, they get, their humor is better. They've got a better feel for the crowd. And he would, and no matter where I was slated to speak, when Mr. Buck was speaking, I was always, he made you feel like you're the most important part of it. Like if I led off, he'd go, "Come on, kid, we need you first." He goes, "We need to kick off with a bang here. We need to get these guys into it." If you were in the middle, he's going to say, "You're going to go in the middle. Spoonhour's going first. We need to wake them up when he's done." Or if you were finishing off, you know, he'd tell you you were saving the best for last. But I remember, you know, I remember him joking around when Rick Ankiel, and Rick would come out and skated with us a couple of times, done some stuff and tried to, you know, integrate himself into this community, of course. And he's such a good guy. And I remember when he had the tough stretch in the playoffs and Mr. Buck was trying to make him feel well. I'm sitting there and I'm up to speak next, and he introduces me but throws this story about me autographing something, and he asked Rick Ankiel for some autographs before the playoffs that year. And he said, "I didn't realize he was going to throw the balls up to me in the booth." And, you know, and so like, he's kind of, and I can't stop laughing, and I got to go up and speak. I think it was a Missouri Athletic Club, and I could not stop laughing. I couldn't get anything together. I had these sheets of these notes, and I kept laughing, and finally he just put his hand on me and he said, you're going to have to get through this here. I couldn't stop laughing at the man. I thought he was hilarious. I loved the way he made people feel. If you wanted to learn how to treat people in St. Louis, you just had to walk around with him. He was forever shaking someone's hand and putting a bill in their, 20 or 100 or whatever it was in their hand. And he knew the names of the people at the elevators and just stuff like that. So there was a great deal of lessons to be learned from him. And I think that, I always got along with him. I mean, Mike Shannon, him and I are friends, and I love being around him because I just can't get over. I mean, this guy's got a Rolodex. Like, I've never seen anybody that knows more people. And I don't know what his contact list must be, but I have never seen anything like this guy. He knows everybody. And so learning from those guys and being around those guys is pretty special.
You mentioned the Rolodex. So if you ask, and I've asked this question to Joe Buck, so like favorite analyst on the road, because he's worked with all these different people over the years. And before you can finish the question, he's like, Shannon. I said, what? He goes, Mike Shannon. I said, no, like to travel. He goes, hey, listen, Aikman's like my best friend. I love all these guys. I love McCarver. He said, you go with Shannon. You're golfing at the best effing places in the world, and they know we're coming, and they all know Mike. The restaurant knows we're coming. You're right. I mean, I get when the Cardinals were at the White House a few years ago, I swear to God, I think Obama looked at him and said, hey, Mike. Like, I'm just like, everybody knows him.
It's unbelievable. I like, he comes to my place in Canada hunting, and so we get a good group. And one year, one of the guys that had brought us up on a plane was kind of getting a little bit, I don't know if he didn't feel like maybe it was high class enough, or if it was being taken care of enough, because we were kind of cooking and we just had a great time. And Shannon got to the point where he just said, hey man, hey big boy, we got your stuff packed. You head on into Saskatoon. They're going to take you in there. He goes, don't worry about the plane. I got another one coming to get us. Sure enough, this guy shows up with his hunting gear a day later. Somebody's picked him up in the city. It's a 2.5-hour drive to my place. And this guy's out hunting with us for 2 more days. And he owns a plane as well. And so we're not flying home. We're flying home in a private jet because Shannon's made a call. And I just started laughing. I said, only this guy could get somebody to come to Saskatchewan and pick us up on a plane.
Well, these are rock star stories, whether it's Shannon or the Cup itself. But then you hang with Brett Hull. I mean, talk about Elvis. Can you go anywhere in St. Louis? Can you and Hully, I know you can have a beer. Can you have a beer in peace if you and Hully are out in St. Louis?
I don't look at it like that. If you don't want to be bothered, or you don't want people to come up to you and have a beer with you or a drink with you in St. Louis, you ought to stay home. I mean, you and I both know I was not a very good player. And the fact of the matter is I got to be on the air for 19 years with Curbs and do TV on NHL Network and NBC. And again, I wasn't a good player. And so for me to be treated the way that I'm treated in St. Louis by the people in St. Louis, I mean, you can come up and do whatever you want. I mean, aside from fight with me or try and pick a fight with Hully, if you do one of those two things, and I don't even bother with people now. There used to be a time where guys would come up and have a little bit of an edge. Now I just say, hey, listen, man, I'm going to tell you something. The toughest guy in this town is still Tony Twist, and I got his number on speed dial. So if you would like to mess around with somebody, just give me 20 minutes. He still loves this shit. He'll be here. So otherwise, beat it. And other than that, Hully and I have a great time in town. I mean, winning that cup, I'll never forget Doug Armstrong wanting me to go up on the stage and get Hully off the stage. And I couldn't stop laughing. I said, I'm not going up there. I might have told him to get Darcy, his wife, to go up or him to go up. But and I'm thinking in my head, I'm thinking, what do you think is going to look worse? Hully up there singing or me up there wrestling around with him while he's trying to sing to get him off stage, because he wasn't coming off the stage. And not me and Twister. There was nobody getting Hully off there. And like he said, listen, we've told everybody this since 1990. When we win the cup here, it'll be the biggest party this city has ever seen, and we're going to see to it. And, I mean, listen, man, the only regret I have about the whole thing is I fell asleep one night at 8 o'clock and woke up the next morning at 6, because I would have been awake for 4 straight days. And somehow I was waiting for my wife to shower or something, and I nodded off, and that was it for 12 hours. That's the only regret I have. I didn't miss a thing. I didn't care. I didn't care where the cup was. I didn't care if they took the cup back to Toronto. I didn't care. All I wanted was to be in the city and be around the people that were so excited and so grateful that team had won. It was just it's the best. There'll be no time like it again. They win again, it'll be awesome. But that, to me, to watch the people, and if you think about coming around that corner at Union Station and looking up the street on Market and going, are you kidding me? Like, seriously, I've been to the other parades that they didn't touch that thing. That was so good.
Final thought. If I tell a 8-9-year-old Kelly Chase from Porcupine Plains, here's your life and here's all this shit that's going to happen, I bet you would have taken it. You said you weren't a very good player. You made it to the NHL. It's got to piss people off. I played golf with Reed Lowe the other day, and we're giving him shit about his 3 career goals. And
right.
he finally goes, hey, did you fucking score on Patrick Waugh? And I'm sure anybody who gets to the NHL, if you play one freaking game, it's huge. So I know you joke about it, but you played in the NHL. You got a hell of a Rolodex. You know everybody. We talk about these other people. I would think you're at a point where you're like, man, it's been a pretty fun ride.
I honestly, I was having breakfast about a month ago with a good group of guys: Pat Burrell, Ian Kinsler, Gretzky, Sean Payton from New Orleans Saints, Brendan Morrow, Ray Whitney. We're all just having breakfast at the same place. We're all up here in Idaho, just sitting there, just having a chat. And, you meet all of these guys and you hear the stories. And the funny thing is they all want to tell Hully stories or hear them, which is great, because he's a legend. But I feel so blessed. Honestly, Martin, there's times where I honestly say, like, why me? Like, why me? Like, I get to do some of the stuff that is just, I don't know it. I don't know why. I feel so blessed. Like I said, I remember hearing Garth Brooks the first time and thinking he was the greatest singer in the world. And now I'm on his board for his foundation. I remember looking at Wayne Gretzky scoring the goal in Calgary. I was playing junior hockey. I was at the game. It's my second game that I ever went to live. I was playing in it. And there I'm, now you get to play golf with Gretzky, or you get to go to these cool events. You get to meet people and help people. You get to do the Layla thing. Like her and I were friends. I was friends with their family. Alex Steen, who started the whole thing by just coming to the hospital one time with me and then doing what Alex Steen does, everything behind the scenes, having the kid over for Christmas, making her feel like a part of it. And then it blew into this thing. The fact you can do that for people, that 5 minutes of your time is more important than $5,000 of your dollars. Like, just think about that. if you could pick all of those things, I don't know why. I don't have one thing that I could say is any better than the other. I just think that St. Louis, myself, my family, it just fit. And because of it, it'll always be my home. I've never left there. People go, oh, you moved to Nashville. I have a place in Nashville that I work out of, a place in Idaho I work out of. I'm doing some work in a couple other countries now with this company, but St. Louis is home. I always have a place in St. Louis. It's my home. It's where I live. It's where my kids live and where my best friends are. So, I don't know why it fit. It just fit and it works. And I'm grateful that I have all the relationships I have and all of the things that I've been able to do it because of the way the people there have supported me.